I made a video a while ago about the concept of campiness in K-pop. Camp is still such a very, very interesting thing to me in the way that it has the potential to be apparently anything and everything. Us as K-pop fans and our willingness to call anything camp is very confusing. It can't possibly be everything that can be considered fun or quirky in music, right? I wanted to do more research, and in the process of doing that was met with the terrifying reality that nobody can really agree as to what camp is, and that's because the aesthetic doesn't benefit from being talked about in public. Camp is a matter of perspective, first and foremost. It's the way the observer sees the world, and so trying to definitively call something camp is a lost cause in a lot of ways. It's very contentious still to this day, but generally, camp is an aesthetic that regards something as appealing because of how bad or ironic it is. Quote, bad music is subjective. The worst song you can think of has at least one fan or one person who will defend it, right? Just because it's camp to you doesn't mean that it will always be camp to everyone else. I wasn't really satisfied with this understanding though, and in my findings, I came to the conclusion that most schools of thought about campiness in the art world would not consider Catallena by Orange Caramel as a quote, pure form of the camp aesthetic. It's still campy by nature, as that was the creative direction team's intention, but therein lies a bit of a problem. In the words of Susan Sontag, who wrote one of the more famous reference pieces about the camp aesthetic, the pure examples of camp are unintentional. They are dead serious. Sontag also went on to write that probably intending to be campy is always harmful. So Catallena isn't considered a quote pure example of camp due to how intentionally out there it is, yet a mistake I made in my original video was categorizing Catallena as not truly camp as a result of this. It is still camp, very much so, just on the opposite spectrum of the consensus about pureness. Catallena is the kind of camp that is insanely aware of itself and due to its intentionality cannot be categorized as pure. The pure examples of camp are pieces of work that are received in a completely different way than the artist originally intended for it to, a condition which I don't believe Catallena fits. I think it's loved and appreciated today exactly in the way that the artist intended it to be, right? This in combination with camp generally being described as something that is quote, so bad that it's good, I didn't and still don't feel comfortable placing it as purely camp under Sontag's conditions. It's campy by nature, but not a pure example of the aesthetic. So in my deliberation, while I was making that first video, I wondered if there was a song in K-pop that is truly the best example of pure camp. I originally suggested Sticker by NCT 127, but seeing as how the members definitely knew it was an abstract sounding song, it isn't the strongest case to be made for the pure side of this aesthetic. Similar to Catallena, there was an intention behind Sticker's experimental nature and its presentation. Again, with Sontag's definition of this aesthetic in mind, the purest forms of camp are dead serious, which I don't think Sticker was. The producers knew they were making a crazy song. NCT knew they were performing a crazy song, so not really the best example of pure camp. So I returned to this discussion today, wanting to find a pure example of camp in K-pop, or the closest thing we can find to calling, quote, pure camp. And by the way, before we continue forward, I don't bring pure camp up to try and police anybody who loosely uses the term camp to describe fun or gaudy aesthetics in K-pop. This is just a rabbit hole that I found myself in that I'm thinking about once again. So after a couple of months of further deliberation, I bring this idea up again to suggest that I'm Gonna Be a Star by Twice is the purest example of camp in K-pop, and I want to tell you why I think so. The people who produced this song, the members of Twice themselves, were quote dead serious about it, and the context in which this song was made has everything to do with why that is. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm Gonna Be a Star was a song produced for 16, the 2015 Mnet survival show where Twice was formed as a group. The song is used all throughout the show's episodes and was eventually added to Twice's Page 2 album as a bonus track on the physical version of the album only. It's quite an obscure song in that way, not streamable or easily accessible compared to the rest of their discography, but it's still a very well-renowned song among onces and K-pop fans, and that's because of the song's very interesting composition. The line distribution is insane. Nayeon taking up more than a third of the song to sing one line, I'm gonna be a star, more than 40 times. It's ridiculous in this way, which is why it stands the test of time as a song that's well known beyond Twice's fanbase. Despite how much of a meme it's become, I'm Gonna Be a Star's creation for the 16 Survival Show adds a layer of seriousness to the song's inception that I think is important to establishing it under the pure camp aesthetic. Nothing about the usage of this song throughout the entire show suggests that the producers intended for it to be taken as a joke. It's the theme song for the whole show, after all, and was intended to represent the high stakes of the competition and the narrative of the contestants pining for debut by the show's end. The contestants are the ones singing the song from their own perspectives, outlining their intention to rise up above all expectations and become a star. I'm Gonna Be a Star is dead serious in this way. It was at the time, and didn't go on to adopt the ridiculous meaning until Twice added it to their discography and even promoted the song throughout 2016. Fast forwarding a couple of years later, while promoting her solo debut in 2022, Nayeon commented on her feelings about I'm Gonna Be a Star and expressed that while she doesn't hate the song, it does make her cringe having to perform it, yet she also recognizes that's exactly why onces tend to love the song so much. So again, over time, Twice have recognized the ridiculousness of this song. It's taken on a new meaning or significance than what was originally intended for the TV show. It's in this way that I believe it's the purest example of camp in K-pop that I can think of due to how it was made and performed. All of that being said, camp is still a hard thing to understand, so I'm going to quickly circle back around and outline its campiness in a list of notes, Susan Sontag style. Note number 1. I'm Gonna Be a Star's creation and its use for the 16 Survival Show only allowed the song's ridiculousness to distance itself as being considerable or important to the future members of Twice. It was produced and performed before the group was ever made. None of the contestants knew, and I'm sure never considered, that a song for the Survival Show would eventually be a part of the group's discography. I think the contestants were more focused on making it to debut. Note number 2. As the song was constructed for the Survival Show, it was treated like any other performance-based objective as part of the show's evaluations of the contestants. They recorded and performed the song in a very serious context, as their ranking and position on the show depended on their performance. Like their future careers were on the line, right? That was the first and foremost priority when it came to the importance of this song. Note number 3. The song over time has been recognized by Twice for how ridiculous the line distribution and song structure is. Again, specifically Nayeon having one line that's repeated all throughout the song. It's the vainness and ridiculousness of the song that has occupied the bulk of its presence and significance in pop culture today. Note number 4. The lyrical content of I'm Gonna Be a Star, as well as its general reception, is one of artifice. It highlights the unnatural, the vanity of fame, the process of becoming a celebrity or star, without making any sort of commentary about this phenomenon. Similar to that, and note number 5, I'm Gonna Be a Star poses a comic vision of the idol industry, conveying the profound want to be a star and all that entails at whatever the cost. These are my notes, my supporting evidence for why I think this is the strongest example of the pure camp aesthetic in K-pop. I'm Gonna Be a Star was dead serious upon its inception. 16 was a very brutal survival show in retrospect, and yet the song has adopted a new, lighter meaning as time goes on. I love this song much more than I think I should. I'm certainly not saying it's a bad song. Again, I don't want to incorporate objective music taste into this analysis. I'm just outlining that its significance and popularity over time comes from the song's unintended ridiculous composition and narrative. And that's it. I'm Gonna Be a Star is my personal submission for an example of pure camp in K-pop, given everything I know at this moment in time. Yeah, I mean, I think I've made my case. Thank you for watching this if you did. Definitely let me know what thoughts you have about this. If you have any other songs in K-pop that you think match the criteria of pure camp, if you think there are better examples. The rubric I used to find a K-pop song that fits a pure camp aesthetic is number 1, the work was received by audiences in a way that the author did not intend it to be. Number 2, the artist was not intentionally making a quirky or gaudy song to be received in a lighthearted way. And number 3, the significance of why the work is so remarkable is artificial by default. It highlights something unnatural about the world or human nature, such as the vanity of fame that we see with I'm Gonna Be a Star. I'll also link Susan Sontag's notes on camp in the description if you want to read over it in full as you sort of synthesize your own example of pure camp in K-pop. Yeah, definitely let me know what you think if you have any other ideas about this. Again, this video is not me intending to rewrite the rules of what we consider camp. I have no interest, certainly not, in trying to definitively say what camp is. I think it's just fun to see what works, given the frameworks that figures in the art world have made for us as a society previously. Yeah, thank you again for watching, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time.